Welcome, fellow agents. The Division 2 is about to go through a huge transformation with the latest title update 6, introducing new ways to get gear, new narrative content with episode 2, and much more. Now is the perfect time to jump into the Division universe, level up, and get ready for the biggest update so far, including content that takes you to one of the most highly defended places in the world, the Pentagon. Today I'm going to tell you why you should be playing and what's coming. Unlike its predecessor, the Division 2 received overwhelming praise at launch by not only the critics, but the players too. I'd be lying to you if I said the game hasn't experienced some issues since launch, including time-gated activities like expeditions, a friend-gated raid endgame activity, and more. But since launch, the devs have been working really hard on the game, trying to iron out all of the bugs and answer all of the community's problems. Just like the Division, every week the developers stream their weekly state of the game, where they address the priority things with the game and most recently interview developers of the game either about future things coming or what's currently in the game. What you don't have to worry about is a constant iteration and communication with every new update intended to address the community's most pressing issues. This leads me on to the next big update and content drop, Title Update 6 and Episode 2. It's best to think of these as the same entity as they will be released at the same time, at some point mid-October. The exact date is yet to be confirmed. What that does give you though is about 3 weeks to enjoy the level 1 to 30 experience, which by the way is one of the best experiences in this genre ever, in my opinion. This is about 30 to 40 plus hours of gameplay that more than justifies the game's current price tag of about £20 for a digital download version on console. I mean, you pay more than that for a Fortnite skin these days. So aside from the obvious campaign and leveling system, why should you get the game right now? Well, there's plenty of reasons. Title Update 6 is so huge that I simply cannot go over everything in this video. However, what I will do is tell you the most important changes and additions that are coming. Now, since players started reaching the end game, one of the biggest problems Division 2 has had was a huge loot pool, meaning the chances of getting the gear that you want was astronomically low. One person worked out that if you wanted a specific brand of gear with specific attributes and talents, you'd be looking at a chance of roughly 0.000 reoccurring percent, essentially. Basically, 0. The point is, it's very low. Now with Title Update 6, the devs have seriously alleviated this horrible RNG without removing the grind altogether, because let's be honest, the Division 2 is a looter shooter, and the grind is part of that experience. Now Title Update 6 includes a new feature that allows you to target the specific brands of gear or weapons that you want, and that just removes a huge layer of RNG. The map will now tell you where specific loot or weapons will drop, giving you an increased chance of getting that gear in those zones. Missions want to have an increased chance to drop specific things as well, and every completed activity or named boss will guarantee the gear you are targeting. Now what makes this targeted loot even better is the rotation. Instead of having to farm the same mission or go to the same zone for a specific piece of gear or weapon, these drops will be on rotation, meaning that they're going to change every so often, they're going to change where they drop, meaning it shouldn't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. Now overall, this change alone is a huge step in the right direction and a massive undertaking, I imagine, on part of the devs. Of course, you will still have to pray to the RNG gods for the right role, but hey, that's part of the fun. Let me ask you this question. What does every looter shooter game have to contain that the Division 2 did not? Unique, powerful gear. Unlike the Division 2 stepped away from having exotics that were very powerful to having exotics that were more of a collectible item in-game. There were some unique ways of getting them, but they were really just collectible items with unique ways of actually using the weapons. But they were no more powerful than some of the other weapons or the general loot pool of weapons in the game. Now, whilst this has taken a 180-degree turn with Title Update 6, with exotics now having some of the strongest and most unique talents in the game, what's more exciting are the new named items. Now, until Title Update 6, there were only 2 named items in the game. With this update, we are getting an extra 35. Now, named items are going to be those rare drops the Division 2 has severely missed. These named items will be about 5% stronger than normal brand set items or weapons, with all new lore, design, and their own special drop icon and animation. Now, this 5% comes from the all new unique talents, which is basically a perfect version of existing high-end talents, meaning these named items are going to be the difference, the advantage that you will want to get. Unlike the exotic items in the games as well, these named items have only one fixed role, that being the perfect talent. The remainder of the talents or stats are still RNG, meaning that every time one of these drops on the ground, you're going to want to check it out, because it may be better than one you have already. With 35 new named items, this is going to keep you very busy. Moving on, and the Dark Zone is getting some really positive changes. Now, for anyone who is new to the Division universe, the Dark Zone consists of 3 endgame PvEVP areas, providing a high level of risk and versus reward. Now, it's split into 3 because 2 of those zones are normalized, and one of those zones is unnormalized. The unnormalized zone, being called the Occupied Dark Zone, is essentially no rules. Now, the Dark Zone and PvP in general has really suffered since launch, because I think it's fair to say the game was predominantly built with PvE in mind, and it feels like PvP was just added to satisfy that audience. The problem is, the Dark Zone is one of the biggest selling points for the Division, and most existing players expected the same for the Division 2, but this just didn't happen. Title Update 6 is going to address some of the problems with both Dark Zone and PvP. The Dark Zone has struggled with full servers, meaning that when you enter one of these 12 player areas, there were times, I say times, it was often when you'd be going in there and you'd be there all alone. Now, this is going to change with Title Update 6. Now, when you enter a checkpoint, the server will check for an ideal server for that player, so they join a Dark Zone that is a high population already. This should increase the player numbers in an active Dark Zone, and mean players encounter a full 12-player server more often. Other additions in Title Update 6 include a new ambush feature, which will be randomly activated when calling for an extraction. If this happens, a Black Tusk helicopter will fly in before your helicopter arrives to extract your items and ambush that extraction. It's in this moment that you can decide to fight the faction horde or move to a different extraction. Supply drops have been added to the Occupied Dark Zone, but there will only be one, and it will be highly contested and protected by Black Tusk bosses. On top of this, and going back to the named items, the developers have confirmed that some named items will be exclusive to the Dark Zone, meaning that if you are lucky enough to have one drop, you're going to want to do anything to protect your loot, and there's no better place in the Division than the Dark Zone to do anything. Aside from all of the changes and additions to the Dark Zone, conflict PvP, targeted loot, name gear, and so much more, Title Update 6 did a huge pass on balancing. Now, just like the update before, Title Update 5, which did a pass on skills, this update is going to be huge for the gear and weapon balance of the game. Weapons are being completely overhauled, with every single weapon being changed so that all weapons become viable. Now, until Title Update 6, you could ask any Division 2 player what the best weapons are in the game, and you'll hear probably the same 3 or 4 weapons. That being the exotic Eagle Bearer Assault Rifle, the P416 or P416 Assault Rifle, the M60 Light Machine Gun, and the exotic Nemesis Sniper Rifle. These 4 weapons have dominated, making almost every other weapon completely redundant. Title Update 6 looks to change that by buffing almost every other weapon in the game to compete with these 4. Like with every other looter shooter game, there is always going to be a meta weapon or meta build. That will never change, but the balancing pass here is going to bring all weapons much closer together, meaning you will be able to use an SMG or use a rifle, and this will still be a viable option, whether that be for PvP or PvE. The point here is that if a weapon drops, you will no longer just ignore it or pick it up and deconstruct it if it isn't one of these 4 weapons. Instead, you can pick this weapon up and know that it's going to be viable. Now, I've only scratched the surface of this update here. And I haven't even discussed the new narrative content coming, because at this point, we simply have no idea what is coming. Except that a new specialization is coming. We're going to be going to the Pentagon, and there's a new raid coming as well. Now, if I had to make a list of things coming, here are just a few of them. New conflict PvP changes. New round-based team elimination game mode for conflict. Removal of normalization in PvP. Revamp of the Dark Zone Thieves vendor. Revamp of how gear sets work. Brand set changes making them open to all slots. A new KSG shotgun. New UI for the stat sheet. New UI changes to the recalibration station. Increase in stash size. Increase in material capacity. New talent changes. Rebalancing of weapons and gear across the board. Rework of exotics and their talents. Improvements to movements. Improvements to inventory. Skill rework for PvP. This list does not contain everything, and I could keep going on here, but it should be able to give you some indication at the scale of this update and the huge impact this will have on the game. Right now there is currently a public test server on PC, and for what I've seen, these changes are really positive, and I expect a huge proportion of players to be returning to the game. All of this stuff I've mentioned in this video highlights what's to come with the next update, which is truly going to transform the game. If you want to loot a shooter that has an unlimited amount of builds, a very long and rewarding level 1 to 30 experience, and a very vocal community and dev team that are tirelessly moving the game towards the best looter shooter on the market, if you want all of that, then this is the game you should be playing right now. Like I said, even if you removed everything in this video and instead just considered the level 1 to 30 experience, this in itself is worth a full price game. So for 1/3 of that price right now, and with all of this stuff to come, I mean, what is the worst that can happen? I do hope to see all of you agents soon, and if you're lucky, maybe you could join my clan. Maybe. Thank you very much for watching today's video. I am by no means being paid to make this video. I just simply feel as though Title Update 6 and Episode 2 are going to be huge for the game. And as a gamer, and just like all of you guys, I think it's my duty to encourage everyone to play, because otherwise you're going to be missing out. For anyone who's left the game for whatever reason, I'm almost confident that they've addressed this with this update. A lot of people left the game based on movement. Well, they're addressing that here. They've made some really good changes to movement. Other people have left because the RNG was so bad. Again, they're addressing that here with targeted loot. And there are plenty of other reasons why people may have left, but most of the stuff in this update are going to address 99% of all the reasons why you may have left before, or you may not have even considered playing the game. I hope to see you soon, agents, and until the next one, Epic out.